Hey guys, since like half of my classmates don't know how to use this thing, I've decided to make a tutorial. So this is the Blackmagic ATEM, what is it? HD8 ISO. I'll put it on the screen. Yeah, I can actually see the box for it. It's the ATEM Television Studio HD8 ISO. And it's really cool. So I think that everybody in the class and probably some people on the internet should know how to use it. I'm going to start off with the basics of the switcher, which is, switching. So to start out, the top row is known as the program row or program bus, and this changes what is being seen on the program feed, which is what is being sent out to wherever you're like outputting this to, whether it be a live stream or a recording. The second row is the preview row, and it indicates what will be shown next on the program when you do a cut or any other transition. So speaking of transitions, there are 5 different transition options on this switcher. Stinger is not working right now. I'll have to edit in a different recording of that one. Hey Tegan. DVE is stuff like movements, where you can either push it or squeeze it. And dips it to a color or a different source. For example, if I have it set to dip to Goliath, mix just like mixes them together as if it was a regular fade, and wipe is just PowerPoint. Well, there's no other way to describe it, Tegan. So you probably noticed that when I press these buttons, you can see these light up. So what those are is essentially allows you to quickly change what the border is. Now, right now, I have it set so that there's no border. Or, for example, with dip, this allows you to quickly change what it's dipping to. Right now it's set to dip to camera 4, so see it dip to camera 4. Also, we are filming a broadcast today, and I'm recording this in the middle of class, so there's a lot of background noise.
We're gonna have producers meeting in 7 minutes, Cole said. Don't snap his neck, please.
So, these buttons right here are all for keying, specifically upstream keying. And so this is how you would do green screens. I'll get into how to do green screens in a different video because it's a bit complicated. Also, over here, these buttons are for downstream keys, which is going to be stuff like lower thirds, things that are overlaid. Then up here, these buttons control what the auxiliary outputs show. So like said, aux1 is showing program, aux2 is showing multi-view. Another thing, up here, these buttons are for recording and streaming. So I am recording right now, so that I can have all the footage to edit in later. And you can also grab a still, which will just save an image. And also a something that's kind of important is if you start recording from the computer, you have to stop recording from the computer. You can't hit stop over here if you started it from the computer, and vice versa. Because then if you do that, it glitches out and won't let you start recording until you restart the switcher. Hello, Elena. How's it going? Then the last thing that I'll get into in this video is this row right here. This is your audio levels and your camera control. So I'm actually going to zoom in so you can see it better. This section is to control your audio levels and also camera control. These buttons will switch between screens. So right now we have it on level. So it'll let us adjust the audio levels. And you can press B and K, which is bank, to go over to more options. So like XLR, those are the mics out on the set. We could just adjust their levels with this little knob. Or we can solo it so that you can only hear that. And this button will just like have it be either on air, automatic switch, or just off. We've got a lot of different screens for different controls like panning, equalizer, expander, compress, limiter, gate, and those are all audio things. But then this last one is camera control. And that will allow us to control the different cameras. So if I go bank over so I can see camera 1, I'm going to select that. You can see camera 1 is highlighted up here. And we can adjust the zoom. We can adjust the focus. Or you can press this button, because you see that little spot that says auto. We press this button and it'll autofocus. And then we've also got a whole bunch of color correction. If we adjust this knob right here, it'll take us to other pages of settings. A bunch of different color correction things. You could do some wild stuff with this. Got contrast, white balance, saturation, ND filter. This first page though is what you're probably going to be using the most. We'll just zoom back out. And so the camera control, it'll only work for official Blackmagic cameras that are properly connected to the switcher. Otherwise, it won't be able to send and receive proper signal. So this only works for, at the moment, our 2 studio cameras with the teleprompters attached. All right, so now we've covered the basics. And for more of the advanced stuff, you're going to want to go onto a computer and open up ATEM software control right down here. And this will only work for computers that are either wired into the internet or connected directly to the switcher with a USB cable. And it should automatically connect, but if it doesn't, you're going to get this screen, and you will look for Goliath ISO HD8, or really just anything that shows up right here. And if you don't see it, then you're going to have to manually enter the IP address. Now, to get the IP address, you're going to go to the switcher itself. And on these screens right here, you're going to hit the second one that says, you're going to hit home. So you're going to hit home to make sure it's on this screen. Then you're going to hit network, and arrow over until you see IP address. And if it's showing all zeros, then that means that the switcher isn't connected to the internet, and you're going to want to check your connection. And I do have some troubleshooting charts. I'll put a link to all the troubleshooting and connection charts in the description. But you'll take this and you'll type it into ATEM software. So, and then you're going to click connect. That was weird. Connect. There we go. So now that we're in ATEM software control, we've got a lot of different options. We've got color generators, super source, the upstream keys, transitions, downstream keys. We've got media players, and we've got the output settings for like live streaming and recording. And I actually have it recording right now because that's how I'm recording the screen, because OBS isn't working properly. So all of these things right here in the palettes section are more advanced things like keying that I'll get into in a different video because, again, complicated. So media players and hyperdecks. I have the hyperdeck recording right now. But what the hyperdeck is I'll just grab the camera off the tripod. The hyperdeck is this thing down here. And it's what we used to use to record when we had a older switcher that didn't have built-in recording. So it records them to these SSDs, and you have to use this special reader for those. In professional industries, stuff like hyperdecks is what they use for instant replays. I think that we're going to get started with the camera control.
Okay. So as we move into color correction, you come to the screen where you have all of your camera. As you move into this screen, in the farther steps of color correction, you come to this screen where it has all of your cameras and, your prompts and everything like that. So obviously, as you switch back and forth, Cam 1 and Cam 2 are going to be your main sources of video input. So for me, I have a pre-restored file. So I would go to File and then to Restore. And then obviously, I have a couple of different presets. And so
don't restore it right now since it's in the middle of recording. I'll explain the restoring.
Okay. All right. But I have a couple restored here, but I'll explain it to you how to base color correct. So as you look at your camera, I have a little bit done already, but so you have three settings in one of your cameras. You have your lift, you have your gamma, and you have your gain, and then you have four of your base colors. So you have white, red, green, and blue. And then underneath that, you have your filter, your gain, your shutter, your balance, and then this thing. This is mainly for the focus of the camera. Not really much else. Your T and your W, you can change your zoom just by sliding it up or down. This bottom scroller wheel makes it focused and unfocused, just in case you wanted to do that from the back room. But anyway, diving into color correction, it's a long and lengthy process, but trust me, it is worth it in the long run. Oop, I moved the lav, my bad. But your main focus will be on your lift and then these four colors right here. Your gamma doesn't really do much. Your gain doesn't really do much. your gain actually kind of messes with the color more severely than your lift does. And so if you're really, really dark in color on your camera, then, you know, you can crank your whites up. If you're lacking red, you can crank your reds up. If you're lacking green, you can crank your greens up. But it's more of the it's more severe than lift or anything is. I'm just going to reset these really fast, just because, yeah, I have to reset these regardless. So now that you have this open and you have an understanding of what everything does, this color wheel is also just a way to move your colors around faster. For me, I honestly don't like it. So let's just start from the base. So for me, my camera is looking a little dark, so I'm gonna bring my whites up. And as I bring the whites up, all the other colors kind of get flushed out. So I like to even match. But as I'm color correcting, you know, the red might be more severe than the white is. And so I will look at my camera as I color correct and just try to find a sweet spot somewhere within there. So like for me, if I turn my green down, it becomes more purple than it does anything else. So I just take my time, you know, trying to find that sweet spot. And for me, this looks about good right here. Actually, looking back on it, I might bring my reds up just a little bit, just because the set is full of red, and so I kind of want that red to pop. You know, have it really catch the eye. And with that, you know, it brings out the wood grain in the back, and so that's basically the basics. Gamma, you really don't need to mess with, but it's kind of the same thing all the other ones are. Again, just more severe. And then going into gain on the bottom part of this, you know, underneath the colors and everything, if you crank your gain up, it just becomes brighter. For me, I kind of like a little bit of a darker, just so my hosts don't get washed out. But not too dark to where, you know, it's unpleasing to look at. So that's perfect for me. I'm just going to keep it at 0. Shutter, again, changes how dark it is, how much light gets in, all that kind of stuff. For me, you know, I don't like a crazy dark set, but I don't like a crazy overlit set. So I'm going to keep it about 130. Oops, I just changed the gain. I'm going to keep it about 130 just because that's my sweet spot. And then your balance just is kind of how it's the same thing, except it cranks reds. It has more red in there than it does any other color. So it's kind of like bringing up your Kelvin, or bringing down your Kelvin count. But that's the basics.
Thank you, Cole.
You're welcome.
All right, so the last thing that you need to know is restoring and saving settings. So restoring and saving settings is really important because it helps speed along the processes of like color correction, especially. Also just getting everything set up for a broadcast. And sometimes it can also really help with troubleshooting. And it'll restore all of your different settings, all of your keying, media players, your recording settings, your audio settings, and all of your color correction settings. So, to save your settings, I'm going to hit Save As, and I'm going to title this Tutorial, and you just put it wherever you want to save. Let's just put it in Documents and save. Then you could select all of the different settings that you want to save. So usually it's best just to save everything, and then you can mess with whatever and just restore it back to that. Although since I'm recording, I can't restore anything. But I'll show you how to do that. You'd go to File, Restore, then you just select it, Restore, then you can choose which settings you're wanting to restore. So let's see what happens if I am recording while that happens. Oh, it's fine. Well, yeah. So in Central News, we have a specific file that we usually use for restoring, and this is also the file that it will automatically boot up to. It's saved to Goliath itself in internal, and it's startup January 25th, this right here. And I will also put a link to it in the description so that anybody can get to it. Yeah, that's pretty much the last thing you need to know. And I had to record on a completely different day because I ran out of time on the first day, then was sick for a few days. All right, so last thing before the end of the video is some vocabulary that, if you're a student, might be on the Utah State test, which I've taken a few times. So, first up, these are called the program bus and the preview bus, or row bus, whatever. They can be called both. And we've got the fader bar. It's a bit dark, hold on. There we go. We've got the fader bar right here. Lets you, transition in a really cool feeling way. Then we've got hard buttons and soft buttons. So these ones I haven't actually seen on the test, but it's good to know when you're reading instruction manuals and stuff. So hard buttons are, these kinds that make a nice little click. And then the soft buttons are going to be like these ones. They don't really have as much of a click, and they're usually a bit more set into the surface and have like rounded corners. Soft buttons and hard buttons. So, thanks for watching. I didn't really explain things very well, so yeah, if you have any questions, then just ask in the comments. And thanks again to Cole for explaining the color correction, because like I said, I'm not good at it.
Yeah.
I'll link his channel.
Yeah.